Okay, once we've figured out our revenue, our next thing is to figure out our cash collections. Now, frequently in business-to-business transactions, we do not sell only for cash or for credit card. We sell on credit, we extend credit terms, and we allow our customers to pay us later. That encourages them to buy. Many people are willing to buy more if they can pay later than if they have to pay up front. And of course, we get the same terms from our suppliers. We often buy things from our suppliers, and we pay them after the fact. But it's important to understand when cash is going to come in. We need to recognize that selling things to customers is very good. It's very important. It's a necessary part of business. But actually collecting the cash is extremely important as well. And we have to know our collections history and our collections policies. And we need to be able to predict when cash will come in. So the next thing we're going to do is our schedule of expected cash collections, or cash collections budget. Now, if we look at our company's cash collections plans, and these are probably going to be based on historical data, we know that typically whatever we sell in a month, we collect about 30% of that during the same month. And then about 60% of it we collect the next month, and the remaining 10% we collect 2 months later. So for example, if we sell something in April, we have a 30% chance of collecting that revenue in April, 60% of it will be collected in May, and the remaining 10% will be collected in June. And in this case, our company seems to have pretty strict credit policies or very good collections people, and we're going to assume that bad debts are going to be negligible, and we'll call those 0. An easy way, and this is certainly not the only way, but an easy way to set up our cash collections budget is to explicitly use these categories. And I'll just copy and paste, and we're going to say how much do we collect in each month. It's going to be a function of how much we expect to collect and when it is in each sale, or what month it is after the sale. So we can pretty easily do these things. In each month, we expect to collect 30% of what we sell. So in April, we're going to collect 30% of April's sales. We can drag those guys across, and we can see that in each month we're going to collect 30% of its own sales. In April, we also have to worry about what we're going to collect in previous months, and so what we're going to say is that 60% of what we sold the month prior will be collected in April. In other words, 60% of what we sold in March is going to be collected in April. Well, we know we have March's sales of 40,000 units, and March sales were at $14 per unit. So what we can say is 40,000 units times $14 times 60% gives us $336,000, and that's what we expect of March sales to be collected during the month of April. We also in April are going to be collecting things from 2 months prior. The second month after February is April, and we still expect to collect 10% of February sales in the month of April. So we can do the same thing. 26,000 units times $14 a unit times 10% tells us that we should be collecting the remaining $36,400 of February's sales during the month of April. Let's go ahead and look at May. In May, we already have 30% of May's sales being collected. We can also take 60% of April's sales will be collected. So we know that 60% of April's sales of $1,000,001 will be collected in May. And we also know that 10% of March's sales will be collected in May, because that's 2 months after the sale in March. So we can say 40,000 units times 14 times 10% will give us 56,000. Now, if we had been doing a budget that included February and March sales in prior columns, we could easily just look back to those prior columns within our spreadsheet. We don't happen to have that here, so I'm typing the numbers in. But we know in May we're collecting 10% of May, 60% of April, and then, 30% of May, 60% of April, and 10% of March. June, again, we're collecting 30% of June in June. We're also going to collect 60% of May's sales, and we're going to collect 10% of April's sales. And so that's what we plan to collect in each of these months is these amounts of cash, and we can simply sum how much we're going to collect in each month. And there are cash collections. And for the quarter, we can sum them up this way and say how much are we going to collect in our various buckets of percentages. And the total cash we expect to collect in the quarter is $3,012,800. Now what we have left to consider here with cash collections is how much we will have sold by the end of June that remains to be collected in July and August. So what we can figure out is if we're going to take our April sales and we're going to collect 30% of those in April, 60% of those in May, 10% in June, then all of April's sales will be collected by the end of the quarter. We look at May's sales. 30% of May's sales are going to be collected in May, 60% of May's sales will be collected in June, and the remaining 10% of May's sales will be collected in July. If we look at June sales, we know that 30% of June sales will be collected in June, 60% of June sales will be collected in July, and 10% of June sales will be collected in August. And if we look at all of these amounts that will be collected after the end of the quarter, the 546, the 145.6, and the 91,000, those amounts are going to be our June 30 accounts receivable. So at the end of June, we have a total of $782,600 that we have sold that we've not yet collected. We will need that when we do our June 30th balance sheet.